Yes, sir. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I know you've been quoted for talking about your concern that the magazine not reflecting the demographic population of Texas.
Yes.
Can you share with us those thoughts and how you plan on your the magazine?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. You mentioned that I've talked about in the past, in the recent past, that the magazine, I think, needs to do a much better job of reflecting the demographic, the diversity of the state of Texas. Texas Monthly has always been a staff-written magazine, which makes it rare, and increasingly even more rare, among American magazines, which by and large have gone to a freelance model. One of the things about a staff-written magazine, though, is that people come and they get jobs there and they don't move on. And you can't blame them, because there really aren't that many jobs in the magazine business. Well, that can often lead, I think has led over the years, to a kind of unity of voices at the magazine, as there hasn't been turnover and there hasn't been the ability to create a more diverse chorus. That's something I'm trying to do right now. It's also one of the ways that we can address that challenge is by opening the doors to more freelance work and to a wider array of voices. I think it's you're right that the advertisements have tended to be pitched toward people of actually I think the advertisements, if you really go through the highest end advertisements, obviously are pitched toward the highest end folks. But actually, one of the interesting things of the past year, which has been a very hard year in the publishing industry in general, a year in which our budgets have been constrained and we've been operating with our hands behind our back a little bit. One of the things that has been interesting about that is that it's revealed how diverse our advertisers are in terms of where they're coming from and the types of ads that they're buying and how many there are. I mean, what's unique about Texas Monthly in American magazines is that it has local ads and national ads. So what happened in the past couple of years is that all the national advertisers just got screwed, and we had no more car ads. You may have noticed that there were no more big truck ads. My son is 2, and for a while the magazine would come home and there would always be a Chevy truck on the back, and he would say, "Yay, it's Papa's magazine, there's a truck on it." And then all of a sudden there stopped being trucks on Papa's magazine. That was a very bad sign. But what we found is that it was the small advertisers, the folks that, someone advertising Pits and Spits and the napkin ring holders and, the small folks who actually carried the magazine through the worst of it because they still were able to purchase ads in the magazine and they still had a reason to and felt like they were getting a return on that investment. So that's about advertisers. As far as the content of the magazine goes, that's my challenge, and it's something that I'm currently, we're in every issue trying to improve. And I take it very seriously, I should say. That's not just a pat answer. It's among my highest priorities. Yes, sir. Yeah. I think that's the only place, actually. It's not a big part of the book, but in that chapter, I wanted to kind of tie together the poetry that the amateur poets at the convention were doing with the songs I was singing and songs that we were hearing, with sort of greater category of the kind of mythical Greek myths and the role of songs and singers in ancient Greece.
Where do you find time to write memoirs and fiction and edit this?
This is all
this magazine that, how many pages are we?
Well, editorial pages around 80 or so. Well, it's all an illusion because the book was finished. The book I had finished writing when I took over it at the magazine. So it's an illusion. But if you guys can keep it a secret, make people think that I'm some kind of Superman. No, there's no way that I could have written this book while doing this job at the same time. But luckily, I had sort of finished it just as the job really began, and then I was shopping it and so forth. Yes, ma'am.
Well, even nonfiction, you know, even though we kind of, even though we present it as fact, it's still a filter that we each see a story through. You know?
Right.
And I talk a lot about that in my classes with my students. And I saw that a lot when I was covering the border down in Zacatecas, because there would be 5 of us, and who we had access to, if one of us spoke Spanish, if one of us was from there, it really changed how the story was presented. Or if belt buckles at a city council meeting were, you know, the thing that attracted the writer, it says
Right.
a lot about the person covering the event as much as what's happening. And so can you talk about the filters, I mean, that we each
Yeah.
definitely interpret?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, we all, like, there's absolutely, I agree with everything you said. I mean, I think when journalists go to cover something, they can't leave themselves at the door. So it's a person's perspective on what happened. But, you know, the conventions of magazine journalism and newspaper journalism too, although it's a little different there, have us believe that, you know, what are reading is an account of what really happened. And it did really happen. And yet, you're still, but the key is that you're reading an account of it. And the difference between, I've always been stunned by, you know, when I was first starting to write nonfiction, the experience of seeing an event, even if it was as sort of straightforward as a city council meeting, but honestly, like even imagining a more dynamic event as well. Seeing that event, sort of experiencing it as a person, as a regular person in an event, and then the experience of seeing that event transformed into language as you write has never ceased to be kind of an amazing experience for me, and one that feels exciting, because even though your job is to relay what happened, you're still making choices that are essentially artistic choices in some cases about the words you choose and the way you try to present things. And I don't think that my account of an event is necessarily the most definitive one or the only one, but I still think that my account of an event is an account of what really happened. It's just that there are many versions of what really happened, and that's what's exciting.
It's exciting if there are different voices represented in newspapers or
Yes.
in magazines, but it's dangerous, especially now when we see, especially in foreign coverage. We have the Associated Press covering Iraq, and then the New York Times picking up the same story, the Washington Post.
Oh, absolutely.
So we've totally become like one account, and that's when I think it becomes.
Absolutely. Well, and that's where, I mean, I think that the internet has actually offered a great corrective to that, because it has enabled people like, you know, to report from instantly from their own perspective and do away entirely with the filter of having to actually get a job at a newspaper. You can have a Twitter account and you can be the best on-the-ground reporting during the Iranian not revolution. So, you know, that was a big eye-opener for a lot of people who followed that particular gentleman's Twitter feed. I mean, but it's, you know, obviously it's happening in blogs every day. And so there's a way in which the rise of digital journalists and amateur journalists online has, I think, provided a little bit of a corrective to what you're talking about, although there's no way that they can be said to have the same kind of megaphone. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much.